Chapter 2. Her choice. Before and after. She had chosen him deliberately. She was 31 years old. She had decided she wanted a child, and would have one without a partner. The father, Moroccan, born 2 years after her, lived 5 minutes away. He had a daughter already from another arrangement. He was not present. Whether this was his failure, or her preference, or both, she raised her son alone on the 18th floor of a social housing tower. Her illness had begun with a brain hemorrhage shortly after he was born. She was social, cheerful. She loved television. She loved the telephone. Long calls from the couch with his aunt, with her friends. Conversations that ran for hours and seemed to be the point in themselves. She laughed easily, the kind of laugh that arrives before the joke is finished. The apartment had a shape to it. She was on the couch. He was in his room. 2 people in a small flat, each in their own world. When she needed something, she would call from the couch, "Marcus! Marcus!" And he would answer from his room, "Yes?" And the instruction would come. It was mostly the same. "Clean your room." It made no difference whether he had friends in the room when she called. The ritual was the ritual. She was also, beneath the sociability, depressed. She had moods that arrived without announcement and left the same way. He was stubborn and difficult when he discovered that the adult in the house was vulnerable, and that vulnerability was leverage. He used it. She was obese. He felt shame, but not for the obesity itself, for the wheelchair, for the visibility of her condition, the way it drew attention in public and placed him beside it. The instinct was to not be noticed, to not be associated with what drew the stare. The wheelchair came gradually. By the time he was in his early teens, her world had contracted to a loop he could map without thinking. The couch, the hospital, the apartment, the couch again, and then the hospital stays grew longer. First days, then weeks. He was alone in the apartment for stretches of time that lengthened without announcement, the way the disease itself had. At first he stayed mostly in his room out of habit. Then gradually he started using the rest of it. The living room, the couch that was usually hers, the longer baths. There was no moment he could point to when the apartment shifted from hers to his. It happened the way the disease progressed, incrementally, until the arrangement simply was what it was. He was a teenager, learning what it felt like to have a home that was entirely his own. After school, he would go to the hospital. She was usually in the smoking area, laughing with patients, with nurses, with whoever was there. He would sit with her until it was time to go home. She overdosed on pills when he was a teenager. He found her unconscious in bed. He called his aunt in the ambulance. After that, the memory goes blank. She survived. Nothing was said about it afterwards. It simply joined the apartment, a fact with no container. There was a separate incident later, when he had left the apartment after an argument and received a phone call telling him she had a knife and intended to use it. He knew the terrain by then. He went home. She survived that too. What accumulated, over time, was not fear, but something more like tiredness. There was a man she brought home later, unremarkable in every respect, except that he arrived with a games console and left with a bloody nose. The man had hit her. Marcus witnessed it, punched him until his nose bled, then went to stay at his aunt's for a few days. He slapped his mother once. She had slapped him first, and in an instant he slapped her back. She never struck him again. The police were called to the apartment during these years, responding to his defiance against his mother. The threat was an institution for difficult children. He did not calm down for any of the official voices. He calmed down when his aunt's boyfriend arrived. There was an evening he smoked a joint with her. The 3 of them, his mother, Marcus, and Victor, in the apartment. She was the only one with a legal reason to. The laughter built until none of them could have said what started it, and none of them cared. She decided on euthanasia. Her left side was fully paralyzed by then. Her vision was failing. She could no longer tolerate the pain, and she had the legal right to say so, and she said so. He was told a month before the date. He did not cry when he was told. The future refused to solidify into something he could actually feel. He went through the following weeks, doing what needed to be done. She was in a hospital bed, visibly diminished. The disease had taken the body he had always known and left something much smaller. The room was darker than usual. A radio sat at the front of the bed. "Don't Leave Me Alone Now" played, her favorite song. Family filled one side of the room. He sat on the other, holding her hand. They waited for the doctor. In the hours before, they talked. Stories, memories, things that made them laugh and cry at the same time. He was mostly quiet. When the doctor arrived and administered the injection, he watched. The medication started working. She had a seizure that lasted about a minute. Then she went still. He did not move. He held her hand. Then he ran outside. His aunt came behind him. He crashed into her arms and wept, with an intensity he couldn't remember feeling before. He could not recall his mother ever hugging him. He did not know whether that was a failure of memory or a failure of frequency. Either way, the hug that arrived at the end was the first one he could locate. It came from his aunt. What stayed with him was not just the pain, but the helplessness. Her only hope was to end the suffering, and she did it surrounded by the people she loved. It took more courage than dying alone. At the wake, he looked at her face, cold, white, already removed from being her, and kissed her forehead. He was sitting at a table when his father walked in. A suit, or something that read like one. The funeral. He did not want to be there. His friends, Timmy, Victor, James, Nico, were in the back of the room, all of them there for him. He wept through the ceremony and ignored everyone. The moment it ended, he left with them. They sat somewhere, talked, and smoked a joint. One by one they outgrew it, or replaced it with something cleaner. He kept smoking. He was angry that she had gone in his late teens, before he had finished school, before he was standing on any kind of ground. He was also relieved. The apartment was his now. The monitoring was over. The mood swings, the shame of the wheelchair, the weight of her helplessness and his helplessness about it. He was free of all of it. He was also entirely alone, and barely past his teens. His mother had carried significant debt in her name. He legally rejected it as inheritance and kept the apartment. On the 10th anniversary of her death, he wrote something, not for anyone, or perhaps for her. November 30th, 2004. That day you would be no more. Laugh and cry is what we did, the day you had to leave your kid. I miss the way you laugh, like only you could. It's been 10 years, but life goes on, the way it should. Don't worry about me. I will be fine. I just miss the way you smile.